One of the most misunderstood mental afflictions in our society is borderline personality disorder. It is often characterized in media as the quote, psycho ex girlfriend, and although this portrayal can have some merit in some cases, it is this misleading depiction and ones like it that fuel isolation and depression in those that struggle with the disorder. Borderline personality disorder, also known as BPD, is a mental disorder that is characterized by extreme, unstable relationships, intense impulsivity, and an unhealthy sense of self. It is very often accompanied by severe childhood trauma, which is typically associated with the debilitating fear of abandonment that BPD sufferers often experience. Although many common estimates state that women make up approximately 75% of BPD diagnoses, this is largely due to a sampling bias, and our current understanding of the disorder leads us to believe that it affects people equally regardless of gender. Most people like to focus on the chaotic romantic relationships that generally appear alongside BPD, but the instability of relationships can be present in all types of relationships in one's life. People with BPD tend to struggle deeply with maintaining healthy, positive relationships over time. Many things are to blame here, but some factors that contribute to others being chased away by BPD sufferers are falling into relationships very quickly. Like I just matched with this guy on Tinder last week, and I think he's the one for me, and we're talking about getting married and having kids and moving across the world together. It's amazing, and fireworks going off, and choir of angels singing. You get the point. Or essentially being highly sensitive to anything that can be perceived as negative or offensive in relationships. This can be extremely frustrating and confusing for those involved with somebody who has BPD, as it can seem like a total mystery regarding where all this stuff is coming from. A small disagreement about where to go out to eat could evolve into a screaming match about why you weren't doing enough to love your partner because you forgot that they really like bagels for breakfast and you recommended you two to go get pancakes. This often drives people away from the person suffering from BPD because their disordered behavior can often involve what we would call manipulative tactics such as lying and gaslighting. It can be perceived as somebody craving your attention desperately, which may sound appealing to someone who has very little experience with disordered relationships because maybe it seems like they'd be made to feel special. But it quickly becomes tiring after you're trying to have some time to yourself and your partner is like triple or quadruple texting you about where you are and what you're doing. It can be easy for many people who lack an open mind to brush these behaviors off as someone just being crazy and obsessive or craving attention, but these characterizations are unproductive towards aiding the person who is deeply suffering, as this disorder comes from a place of severe hurt. BPD sufferers often have an extremely powerful and profound sense of not knowing what their identity is. This lack of a healthy sense of self can manifest in behaviors such as substance abuse, high risk sexual behaviors, risky driving, or essentially anything and everything to fill the void in their hearts or deflect the pain left by severe trauma, abuse, and/or neglect in childhood. It is difficult to put into words how impactful early childhood abuse can be on the psyche of anyone unfortunate enough to have been subjected to it. Your brain is extremely sensitive to outside stimuli throughout the developmental years of your early life when your brain is still growing, and when you are mistreated so intensely that it often constitutes a crime in many states, these experiences really stick. When a seed of chaos is planted into your mind, it is unfathomably difficult to rip the roots of mayhem out of your heart. The line between good and evil runs right down the middle of the human heart, and this truth becomes distorted in the perceptions of those that were exposed to the truly horrific side of humanity growing up. Borderline personality disorder was only added to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, also known as the DSM, in the year 1980, but it was first observed allegedly around 400 BCE by the ancient Greeks. Its concept and understanding has evolved over time, though its stigma has been largely unaltered, as it is common for those who know about the disorder to run for the hills as soon as they hear that somebody may be diagnosed with the condition. But is it truly wrong to discard somebody because of their mental illness, particularly if you've had a bad experience with somebody in the past who had the same condition? It depends who you ask. If you're going to be picky about anything, being picky about the kinds of people that you surround yourself with is certainly a reasonable course of action. But not everybody with BPD is a bad person. In many cases, they're just not aware that their behavior is hurtful. It is comparable to a tornado ripping through a town. The tornado itself is not evil, it's just doing what a tornado does, and that happens to hurt people. It is not necessarily intentionally malicious. One of the most fascinating pieces of psychological literature that I have come across is a study conducted by researchers in Germany that focused on the detection of emotional facial expressions in those with BPD. Scientists essentially took a video of somebody's face changing quickly from being happy to becoming very angry and split the video into many different frames. Participants with BPD in the study were able to detect anger in a facial expression despite the face being 70% happy and only 30% angry, which shed some light on how people with BPD go through their lives. It can be concluded that people with the disorder essentially live in a constant state of hyperarousal and hypersensitivity in regards to the actions and behaviors of others. This exhausting way of life can weigh heavily on the shoulders of those unfortunate enough to experience this severe disorder. The most popular and seemingly effective way to treat BPD is through psychotherapy, although different types of treatment work better for different people. Dialectical behavioral therapy, also known as DBT, has been researched extensively and can be an effective measure to take when treating BPD. It focuses specifically on cultivating four key elements: mindfulness, acceptance and distress tolerance, emotional regulation, and interpersonal effectiveness. Unfortunately, there is no effective medication to treat BPD, but there are some antidepressant and antipsychotic medications that can aid with the reduction of symptoms that may accompany BPD or comorbid disorders that a BPD sufferer may have. Although not all of us may understand the depths of the condition, it is imperative that we open our eyes, ears, and hearts to those struggling daily with such a severe disorder, as social support is a fundamental part of growing and healing.